Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to build wealth the fastest often don't look like they're doing anything special? They're not flashy. They're not investing in the latest crypto coin. They don't even talk much about money. But here's the wild part. They're getting richer, quietly, and in many cases, it all starts with one simple habit. One that costs just $5 a day. Sounds ridiculous, right? How could $5 possibly make you rich? Well, today, we're going to break that down step by step. Because once you understand how this works, you'll never look at small spending the same way again. Here's something most people get completely wrong about money. They think that wealth comes from big, bold moves, winning the lottery, landing a six-figure salary, timing the stock market. But according to data from the Federal Reserve, that's not how most millionaires are made. In fact, a study from Ramsey Solutions found that 79% of millionaires didn't inherit a dime. They built their wealth over time through consistent, smart financial habits. The problem is, most people ignore the small stuff, and that's costing them way more than they think. Take this stat. The average American spends around $92 a month on coffee shops, according to a survey by Acorns. That's over $1,100 a year. Now, I'm not here to tell you to stop drinking coffee, but what if you took that $5 a day coffee habit and redirected it? That's where things start to get interesting. Let's say you take $5 a day and invest it. Just $5. That's less than a fast food meal or a fancy latte. That's $150 a month. Now, what happens if you consistently invest that $150 every single month for 30 years? Assuming a conservative 8% annual return, which is roughly the historical average of the S&P 500, you'd end up with just over $200,000 from coffee money, but it gets better. If you bump it up just a bit to $10 a day or $300 a month, you're looking at $400,000 over 30 years. That's the power of consistency. It's not about having a ton of money right now. It's about creating a habit that builds real wealth over time. That's what most people miss. They're so focused on trying to save thousands in one go that they ignore the fact that wealth is often built in $5 increments. Here's why this is such a big deal. Behavioral psychologists have studied how humans relate to money. One of the key findings is this. We tend to treat small amounts of money as if they don't matter. This is called mental accounting. You might tell yourself, oh, it's just $5, and spend it without a second thought. $5 a day is over $1,800 a year. That's a plane ticket. That's a whole emergency fund. That's a Roth IRA contribution. The problem isn't the coffee, it's the unconscious spending. Because here's the truth. Small unconscious decisions are what shape your financial future, not the occasional big decision. Let's say you're 25 years old. You decide to start investing $5 a day, $150s a month. You stick with it consistently until you're 55. That's 30 years. At an 8% annual return, you'd have $211,000. Now, let's say you start later, at age 35, same investment. But now you've only got 20 years. You end up with $89,000, same $5 a day. But time makes a huge difference. That's why the habit is more important than the amount. Starting early and being consistent is what builds wealth. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market. Good question. And yes, inflation is real. But here's what most people miss. Inflation hurts cash, not investments. If you let that $5 sit in your wallet, it loses value every year. But if you invest it in a diversified index fund, your money can actually outpace inflation over time. The S&P 500, even adjusted for inflation, has historically returned between 7% to 8% annually. That's why the $5 habit works. You're taking money that would otherwise slowly disappear and turning it into an asset that grows. This habit isn't sexy. It doesn't promise overnight riches. There's no viral headline in "Invest $5 a day for 30 years." And that's exactly why no one talks about it. But the truth is, it works. And wealthy people, they know this. They understand the power of systems and habits over one-time decisions. They automate their savings. They prioritize consistency over excitement. And over time, they build real, lasting wealth. Thomas Stanley and William Danko's classic book, The Millionaire Next Door, studied hundreds of self-made millionaires. You know what they found? Most of them lived below their means, drove used cars, wore average clothes. But what they did do? Invested early and often, even in small amounts. Because they knew something most people don't. Small money, invested wisely, becomes big money. Let's make this practical. Here's how you can start building wealth with the $5 habit today. Step 1. Open a Roth IRA or brokerage account. Use platforms like Vanguard, Fidelity, or even apps like M1, Finance, or Robinhood. Step 2. Automate a $5 daily transfer. Set it and forget it. Most apps let you do this weekly or monthly. Just make sure it adds up to about $150 a month. Step 3. Invest in a low-cost index fund. Look for funds like VOO, Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, or SCHD, Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. These have low fees and solid long-term returns. Step 4. Stay consistent no matter what. Ignore the market noise. The real key is consistency. Step 5. Increase over time. Once $5 a day becomes easy, bump it up to $6, $10, whatever you can afford. That's it. That's the entire strategy. Simple, boring, and powerful. But I don't have $5 a day to spare. Really? If you track your spending, I guarantee you'll find $5 in subscriptions, snacks, or impulse buys that you won't miss. Cut one of those, and you've got your $5. But $5 isn't enough to make a difference. That's what they want you to think, because if you believe that, you'll stay stuck. But $5 invested smartly is enough to change your life. But what if the market crashes? Markets go up and down. But historically, over any 20-year period, the S&P 500 has never lost money, not once. The key is long-term thinking. Budgeting is important, but it's reactive. You look at what you've spent and try to fix it. The $5 habit is proactive. It builds wealth automatically, without requiring you to think about it every day. And over time, it rewires your brain. You start thinking like an investor. You start seeing opportunity in every dollar. And that's when the magic happens. Want to take it further? Here are 3 more tiny habits that compound over time. First, reading 10 pages of a finance book a day. That's 300 pages a month, about a book and a half. Over a year, 18 books. That's a whole new financial mindset. Second, tracking every expense. Just knowing where your money goes can reduce spending by up to 20%, according to a study by MIT. And third, asking this one question before every purchase. Will this make me richer or poorer? That single pause can shift your financial trajectory. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this. Wealth doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to come from big windfalls or lucky breaks. It can start with something as small as $5 a day. The $5 habit isn't about the amount. It's about what it represents. Consistency, intentionality, long-term thinking. And those traits, they're what separate the broke from the wealthy. So the question is, what are you doing with your next $5? Are you letting it slip through your fingers? Or are you using it to build your future? You already know what to do. Start today. If this video opened your eyes, even just a little, hit that like button, subscribe for more practical financial tips, and check the link in the description to start your $5 investment journey right now. You've got this. Let's build something real, together.